I opened the door thinking it was a delivery. It wasn't. It was a woman I'd never seen before. She was standing on my doorstep in jeans and a sweater, holding her purse with both hands. She looked tired. Not like she'd just woken up. Like she'd been tired for a long time. She said, "Are you Amanda?" I said, "Yeah. Can I help you?" She said, "I'm Rebecca. I'm David's wife." The world stopped. I stood there with my hand still on the door, staring at her, trying to make sense of what she'd just said. I said, "I'm sorry." "What?" She said, "David. David Chin. I'm his wife. And I think you've been seeing him." My legs felt weak. I leaned against the doorframe. I said, "He told me he was divorced." She shook her head. She looked like she might cry, but she was holding it together. She said, "We're not divorced. We're very much married. We have 2 kids." I couldn't breathe. She said, "Can I come in? I think we need to talk." I let her in. I don't know why. Maybe because I was in shock. Maybe because I needed to hear the truth. We sat in my living room. She sat on the couch. I sat in the chair across from her. There was this horrible silence. Finally, she said, "How long have you been seeing him?" I said, 6 months. She closed her eyes. She nodded like she'd suspected as much. She said, "He's been telling me he's been working late, traveling for work." I didn't question it because he's always worked a lot. But then I found a receipt from a restaurant. On a night he said he was in a meeting. I felt sick. She said, "I started looking. I found texts, pictures. I found out about you." I said, "I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know he was married." She said, "I believe you. He's good at this. This isn't the first time." That hit me like a punch. I said, "What?" She said, "He's done this before. A few years ago. I found out about another woman. He promised it would never happen again. He went to therapy. He said he was sorry. And I believed him. I felt like I was going to be sick." She said, "I came here because I thought you should know. And because I wanted to see for myself. I wanted to see the person he chose to lie to both of us for." I didn't know what to say. She stood up. She said, "I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at him, but I thought you deserved to know the truth." She walked to the door. Before she left, she turned around. She said, "He'll probably call you. He'll probably tell you I'm crazy, that we're separated, that it's complicated. Don't believe him. We're not separated. We sleep in the same bed every night. We eat breakfast with our kids every morning. He is not leaving me. He never was." Then she left. I sat there on the couch for I don't know how long, just sitting, staring at the wall. My phone rang. It was David. I didn't answer. He called again, and again. Finally, I picked up. He said, "Amanda, I can explain." I said, "Your wife was just here." He went quiet. Then he said, "She's lying." I said, "About what?" "About being married to you? About having 2 kids with you." He said, "No. I mean, yes, we're technically still married, but we're separated. We have been for over a year. We just haven't filed the papers yet." I said, "She said you sleep in the same bed." He said, "That's not true. She's making that up because she's angry." I said, "Why would she be angry if you're separated?" He didn't have an answer for that. I said, "Are you living with her?" He said, "It's complicated." I said, "It's a yes or no question." He said, "Yes, but only because of the kids. We're co-parenting under the same roof until we figure things out." I felt so stupid. So incredibly stupid. I said, "You told me you were divorced." He said, "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want to scare you away. I knew if I told you I was still technically married, you wouldn't give me a chance." I said, "You're right. I wouldn't have." He said, "But we have something real. What we have is real. My marriage is over. It's been over for a long time." I said, "If it's been over for a long time, why are you still there? Why haven't you left?" He said, "It's not that simple." I said, "It is that simple. You're either married or you're not. You're either available or you're not. And you're not." He said, "Amanda, please, don't do this. I love you." I hung up. He called back immediately. I didn't answer. He texted. Long messages. saying he was sorry, saying he'd fix it, saying he'd leave her, saying he'd prove to me that what we had was real. I blocked him. I spent the next few days in a fog. I called in sick to work. I stayed in my apartment. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I kept replaying the last 6 months in my head, trying to see the signs, trying to figure out how I missed it. And there were signs. I just didn't see them. Like how he never stayed the night. He always had an excuse. Work in the morning, early meetings, things to take care of. Or how I'd never been to his place. He said he was in the middle of moving, that it was a mess, that he'd rather come to mine. Or how he was always vague about his schedule. He'd say he'd call me later, and sometimes he would, and sometimes he wouldn't. Or how he never wanted to take pictures together. He said he wasn't photogenic, that he didn't like being on camera. I thought I was being understanding, flexible, easygoing. I thought those were good qualities in a partner. But really, I was just making it easy for him to lie. A week after Rebecca showed up, I got an email from David. He created a new account because I'd blocked his old one. The email was long, pages long. He said he was leaving her. He said he'd told her it was over. He said he wanted to be with me. He said he understood if I didn't believe him. But he asked if we could meet. Just once. Just to talk. I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, I saw him. By accident. I was at the grocery store. I saw him in the produce section with a woman and 2 kids. The woman was Rebecca. They were picking out apples. The kids were in the cart. They looked like a family. He didn't see me. I left before he could. And that was it. That was when I knew for sure. He wasn't leaving. He was never going to leave. He was just going to keep lying. To her. To me. To whoever else came along. It's been 8 months now. I'm okay. Mostly. I'm more careful. I ask more questions. I trust less easily. When someone tells me they're divorced, I ask to see the papers. Not because I think everyone is lying, but because I know that some people are. And I don't feel bad about that. About being careful. About protecting myself. What happened with David changed me. Not in a way that made me bitter. Just in a way that made me smarter. I learned that some people will look you in the eye and lie without flinching. They'll hold your hand and tell you they love you while they're living a completely different life with someone else. And they'll make you feel like you're the one being unreasonable for asking questions. David did that. Every time I asked about his schedule or why I couldn't meet his friends or why he couldn't stay the night, he'd make it seem like I was being needy or insecure. He'd say things like, "Why don't you trust me?" or "I thought you were different." And I'd back off, because I didn't want to be that person. The clingy one. The paranoid one. But I wasn't being paranoid. I was being lied to. And there's a difference. If you're listening to this because someone is telling you you're asking too many questions, or you're being too suspicious, or you need to just relax and trust them, I want you to hear this. You're not asking too many questions. You're asking the right questions. And if someone is making you feel bad for wanting the truth, that's a red flag. Because someone who has nothing to hide won't get defensive when you ask questions. They'll just answer them. David couldn't answer my questions. So he deflected. He made me the problem. He made me feel like I was being difficult. And I believed him for 6 months. 6 months of my life. 6 months of thinking I was building something with someone. 6 months of planning a future that didn't exist. That's what hurts the most. Not the lying itself, but the time. The time I spent believing in something that was never real. I can't get that back. And I can't change what happened. But I can make sure it doesn't happen again. And so can you. Ask the questions. Trust your gut. Don't let anyone make you feel crazy for wanting honesty. Because you deserve the truth. Even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. You deserve to know who you're giving your time to. I didn't get that with David. But I'll get it next time. Because now I know what to look for. And now I know what I won't tolerate. And that's worth something.